With a number of COVID-19 cases maintaining throughout the state of Texas, there have been more and more requests regarding the upcoming school year. While we still don't have all the answers, we'll be publishing episodes weekly to provide what information we do have and keep you updated on the 2021 school year. Hi, I'm Andrew Kim, Superintendent of Schools for the Comal Independent School District. Joining me today are Kristi, Elliot, and also Taylor Hughes, who both work for us for our student support services, counseling services for our students. I'm really thrilled to have both of you here with me today in our podcast. So, Kristi and Taylor, one of you guys, just both of you guys, would be actually great. Tell us your perspective about the school start and seeing what you've seen so far, and has it been positive? Any issues that you see? Certainly when we're talking about students from a social emotional learning perspective and mental health issues, perhaps.
So for the first day of school, I was at Canyon Lake High School, and I was impressed to see that it looked similar to a normal start to school. But one thing I did notice is that it was a lot quieter. I think the kids with masks on and just being uncomfortable about being back and not knowing what the expectations are and the different rules. I did have a chance to talk to a young lady who was kind of standing by herself, and I thought maybe she looked a little anxious about being there. But when I actually talked to her, she said that no, she was trying to see how her friends would react because she had changed her hair color, and it seemed like none of them recognized her. So I thought that was kind of cool that, they're still interjecting back into their normal, playful teenage life, even though they have to have masks and do some physical distancing.
Yeah. Taylor, what about you?
I was just going to say from the remote standpoint that a lot of our students are kind of getting over that hump of awkwardness. They're finally reaching out to our support specialists and our counselors. And so they're doing a great job at finally going back to the normal and how they would use their in-school resources. I think it just took that first few days of academic adjustment to get to that point of who do I have on campus as a resource? Who do I have not used to? Because they've kind of been on their own the last 6 months. And so I think that's pretty good that they're finally adjusting because it was pretty quiet on campus the first few days we noticed.
Speaking of that quiet, elementary schools, I've been visiting some of those, of course, in all the schools, but I noticed that there's a level of quietness, to your point. I always like to measure a quality of a school by good noise versus, let's say, bad noise, right? And so I know good noise when I hear it, and I know bad noise when I hear it, right? In some sense, though, I'm sure some of our teachers are like, oh my gosh, this dream come true. You know what I mean? It's quiet. It's finally, maybe librarian's dream comes true. Who knows? Whatnot. But so that's a good point. I didn't think about it from that perspective of kids not able to express their usual teenage or little kids sort of, things, right? Moments of joy, frustrations, and whatever. The mask is an interesting thing to that issue. Taylor, you just mentioned something about phone calls. So are we getting a lot of phone calls, or what's going on there?
We're getting a lot of students requesting a lot of face-to-face over the computers. And so I think we're just figuring that piece out a lot on campuses.
Like a Google Meet or therapy sessions,
right.
Or just a talk sessions, conversation sessions?
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of them are doing it over the phone, but they've really enjoyed, and they, from my experience with them on campuses, they like to be on FaceTime with you. I almost feel like it's a better access for us to the students to a certain extent because they're so used to their face and phone time that now they're just utilizing our services a lot more to a certain extent. But we are still adjusting to a campus level to make sure the privacy and the confidentiality of our students are kept
of course,
to high standards.
That's probably one of the things that certainly may continue on beyond this pandemic is that face-to-face time opportunities for kids to be able to have a discussion privately with one of our counselors, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it, too, for kids is just like we can't monitor what's happening at home. So they feel that they like that they can go on a walk and go outside and call their counselor, set up a time that they can do that with our support specialists and counselors.
Right.
So it's almost opened up the window of how they can reach out to us.
Yeah. Is there a certain, just out of curiosity, certain times in a day that the request is being made more? Is it, obviously I'm just assuming after hours, after school times, or evenings or mornings, or Or is there not a way to maybe gauge that right now?
We haven't gauged, unless I'm wrong, Kristi, but you jump in. We haven't gauged an exact time. I know kids are sleeping in a lot more. So I'm finding that a lot of our phone calls into our station has been in the evening.
Is that right?
Afternoon time. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So has it changed though since school has opened though? I noticed that when I was talking with several students over the summer months, and there was I got to tell you, there was a different sort of feel to it. The kids they were very lethargic. They were not as active, almost like they weren't as funny, and because these are some students that were really funny with me. But now, though, I just got off the phone with several of the students, my student advisory, for example. Now there seems to be a little bit pep in their voice, right? There's a little bit of, like some energy. So I'm wondering whether or not you guys have seen a difference or marked difference between, what was over the summer months or the last 10 weeks of school last school year, which was a complete shutdown, to what you see now, maybe.
Well, and I couldn't agree more. I think at first we saw that kids were very hesitant to reach out to us, talk to us. They were very short to the point. When we'd ask questions, they would just say, yeah. And we're like, can you tell me more about that? What's going on? And now we're not having to do that as much. It's like we've kind of jumped over that barrier, and now they're understanding that this is our normal of how we're going to communicate, and they have to be comfortable with that. But also on our end, we offer to the students several different ways to communicate with us so that they're not just stuck with the one and only pathway.
Yeah,
that's what
good.
I've noticed.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same as it was for adults. In the beginning when we were doing Zoom meetings, it's like nobody will say anything. And we ask questions and nobody answers. And it was just a real weird, awkward silence. The last couple of meetings we've had, it's been a lot more interactive and people are communicating better.
Yeah.
So some of it, I think, is just getting used to it.
Yeah, I think the formatting, of course, which, I'm still getting used to it myself. But, I'm really, certainly concerned about our students' well-being. And I think, I was at a few of our athletic events, and I got to tell you, the enthusiasm demonstrated by the students was just really good to see. I mean, I understand that we have, this pandemic to worry about, and certainly it's a big worry. But, boy, I tell you what, balancing this notion of kids sort of, just mental health and just being part of feel like, kids, I think, struggle with trying to feel like they need to belong, right? To a group, to their fellow students and friends, and to be recognized by adults in a positive way. So I think that I've seen, it's almost like it was so stark shutdown time period where we didn't see any of that. Now seeing it, it's almost like a random experiment that occurred has happened to us, right? And I'm seeing a huge difference in kids as a result of this.
And I agree. I would say, which we preach a lot, that relationships are the number one protective factor with our students and making those connections. And so I feel like what you were saying about games and participating in events, it brings back that connection for them to see who's showing up to my games. My parents are able to come, and yes, there might be different safety factors put in place, but at the same time, they're getting that connection that they've lost for so long.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, great point. I mean, I'm certainly not an expert on this topic, but rely on you guys to advise on this. But just once again, the seniors that I've spoken with, for example, they are wanting senior rights back. They're like, hey, we want our senior, senior privileges, and all that good stuff. So it's good to hear that, and in terms of what those things could be that we can have, because, I think it's their way of saying, hey, listen, hey, I want to connect. I want to hang out. I want to take care of things. I want to spend some time with folks, and which is natural. I mean, that we want to do that. And certainly trying to do that with the balance of the pandemic has been obviously a Herculean worrying to try and figure this out, of course. But so tell me this. So if a student is, and I don't know if students are listening to this podcast, I hope they will be, or parents are listening to this, where should they contact or call to get support? Let's kind of give some of these numbers and information out while we can.
Okay, so the first place to reach out for help is always going to be your school counselor, because every one of our campuses has a school counselor that they can reach out to. All of our secondary campuses also have an additional support person that's connected with our department. They're called student support specialists. In the past, you might have known them as social workers, but all of our high school campuses have one, and so does Piper Ranch. Then all of our other secondary campuses have a communities and schools person, except for Spring Branch and Smithson Valley. So those are some people on campuses that they can reach out to.
And so really just need to go call the general main number and get connected to that, right? Yes. And or they can call the main switchboard here at support services here at Comal Independent School District, which is 830-221-2000, and ask for the services at the campus that they're wanting to get in touch with. And certainly I think that's very important to that. Yeah. One of the things that, what are the areas that you think as a last discussion here, things we could do better in terms of providing more? I mean, are we needing more counselors and support, I guess? I mean, I know you guys are going to say yes, but so what can we do in a short run to provide some meaningful support for our students and even our teachers, of course?
Yeah, I think the teachers are a huge part of that because they do see students every day. And they're the ones that will notice subtle changes, and they're the ones that notice, just the day-to-day issues that kids have. So I think teachers are a very important part of that. One of the things that we just recently did was we made some posters that have a statement on about, are you feeling overwhelmed or hopeless or stressed? And it has a QR code on it, and that QR code links them to local area resources, including 24/7 hotline numbers. So we've had several community agencies that have really stepped up and are really providing a lot more services here locally that our kids can reach out to and connect with, and so can parents or staff. Anybody can reach out to those. So really, it's just them understanding and knowing that there's people out here that are available to help them. You don't have to be a trained counselor to have a great relationship with a student. We see everything from custodians to cafeteria employees that can, when you ask a kid who's the most important to you at school, and they'll name people that are maybe in some non-traditional type positions where you don't typically think of. So really just letting them know that they've got somebody out there that cares about them.
Yeah,
and how to reach them.
I call it kind of mentorship. I have a mentor that I've, connected with him for the last almost 25 years of my life. And I know for a fact he's not a trained counselor at all, but he certainly is always available to listen. So I really appreciate that quite a bit. You know what? That QR code, that's good. We need to think about putting that QR code somewhere more very prominent, not only on the posters around the schools, but maybe on our banners on our websites, and maybe even a social media sort of push out on that. So I may need to think about that.
Yeah, I think that would be great, just so we can create that equality to access to the information we're giving out, to the resources, and then, of course, all those amazing community agencies that are stepping up to help us fill in all those gaps that we're just seeing as we're starting to explore all the new areas of mental health and student support.
Yeah, no, that's very, very important. And so I know that this is it's always been an important work. It's always been a hot topic of sorts, but now even more so, just because our kids are, in this situation with all of us, struggling through the pandemic. And I know it's been very hard, not only for our kids, and for our teachers as well, too. So I really do appreciate you guys in terms of being here, being part of this. And so hopefully we'll continue to provide additional support. And I hope you guys are also taking care of yourselves just as much as well, too. All right. Well, listen, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it very much. You've been listening to the Comal Independent School District Radio. Join us next time as we talk with our principal and a teacher to kind of get their perspective on the school year start. So thanks very much.